In the 1960s, America was experiencing radical change socially and politically. Minority groups advocated against the inequalities they faced in all aspects of their lives. Corky Lee belonged to a small minority of Asian American photojournalists that focused on the Asian community. He was not only an active advocate for human rights and labor rights, but he also documented the essence of being American. His work embraced the fusion of his identities. He celebrated being Asian, yet also being American. His photojournalism changed how history is documented, paying homage to the history of Asian American trailblazers before him. Corky Lee's distinct approach to capturing the stories of Asians in America using photojournalism represented a new frontier in developing the Asian American identity. As a minority group, Asians struggled to integrate into America's social fabric. Each wave of Asian American immigration faced its own unique set of challenges. In the 1800s, the California Gold Rush brought in an influx of Chinese immigrants settling in the western region of the continental United States. The 1860s provided labor opportunities for immigrants through the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad. Creating a railroad connecting Lake Michigan to the West Coast was a monumental event that would benefit the country. It provided jobs for over 12,000 Chinese laborers. The influx of Chinese laborers resulted in growing political xenophobia. The Chinese Exclusion Act, signed by President Chester Arthur in 1883, prohibited the immigration of Chinese laborers. Enforced for 6 decades, it cast Chinese immigrants into a second-class tier of Americans. It was repealed in 1943, only 4 years before Corky Lee's birth in 1947.
Hi, my name is Corky Lee. I'm known in circles as the undisputed, unofficial Asian American photographer laureate.
Lee grew up in Queens, New York to Taiwanese immigrants. Taiwanese immigrants were one of the first waves of Chinese immigration. The Taiwanese spoke a dialect of Mandarin Chinese, making them an isolated group even among minorities. Queens was not as densely populated with diverse inhabitants then. The Chinese population in the United States was only 0.08% in 1940 and 0.1% in 1950. The Asian American and Pacific Islander communities encountered severe xenophobia, supported by the 1924 Immigration Act, which placed a quota on the number of immigrants allowed to enter the United States. Media often portrayed Asians as Oriental and foreign, casting the entire Asian diaspora as outsiders. Photographers such as A.J. Russell and Arnold Genth captured the expanding culture of the West Coast during the 1800s. A.J. Russell focused on the laborers that worked on the Transcontinental Railroad. Arnold Genth, a German, took candid images of the Asian residents of San Francisco's Chinatown. Despite Genth's efforts to capture Chinatown's aura, his view was subjective and limited. The photography of Russell and Genth, both white males, typically reflected an outside-in perspective in their imagery and composition, depicting the Asian community as exotic Oriental beings. Fast forward 100 years, Corky Lee became inspired by the photographs commemorating the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad, taken by A.J. Russell. Depicting the last spike being planted and laborers toasting the joining of the two train lines, Russell's photo represented an outside-in perspective on the creation of the Transcontinental Railroad. His photographs celebrated the work of the East Coast and the West, yet it lacked the Chinese laborers that contributed to a majority of the workforce. After seeing this photograph in junior high, Lee dedicated his life to becoming an activist through photojournalism, correcting history through snapshots.
It's not just to take a photograph. So there's a big difference between making a photograph look pretty, a snapshot, or a photograph that make a statement. And so why Corky's photographs stand out from the other people? Because he sees that the time will change and how things will change, but somebody got to be there to document it to make it valid. It's the validity of it.
Lee's style utilized an inside-out perspective, where he photographed the community with context, providing his subjects with a voice to express themselves. His multiple restagings displayed in exhibitions across the country put into perspective the importance of the Chinese workforce and the intolerance they faced constantly. Ironically, in 2012, a team at Stanford University analyzed the Promontory Point photograph and concluded that there were 3 Chinese railroad workers present. However, the majority in the picture did not represent 80% of the workforce, consisting of Chinese laborers. His 2016 exhibit, Chinese America on My Mind, was displayed at Pearl River Mart in New York City's Chinatown. It included photographs ranging from his advocacy work to photographs of his community and their daily lives. His first restaging of Russell's 1869 photograph was in 2014. Lee organized a restaging for every anniversary afterward, including direct descendants of Chinese laborers that worked on the railroad. Taken at Promontory Point, Utah, he deliberately situated the group in the exact same positions as the original photograph.
He did that for several anniversaries. You can go and check the years, but he wanted to do it like every 5 or 10 years because that was kind of the thing that had inspired him to become a photographer, and that helped create his lifelong mission of photographic justice. That's what he called it. So he always said he was rectifying history one picture at a time, and that's what he saw his role as every day.
In 1974, Asian Americans led the Confucius Plaza protest in Chinatown, New York. The Confucius Plaza building was being constructed in Chinatown, a central location for the AAPI community. Yet, the DeMatteis Construction Company refused to hire Asian workers. Corky Lee captured the crowd of protesters outside the construction site at Confucius Plaza. His photography captured the media's attention. It documented the Asian American community vocally fighting against unfair hiring practices. Through the exposure gained with the aid of his photography, 27 more minority hires were ensured for the project. In April of 1975, Peter Yu intervened when he witnessed a 15-year-old boy assaulted by police for a traffic violation. Yu was stripped and taken by force to a local precinct, then charged with a felony. The event stimulated the emotions of the growing Asian American community, where they felt the need to advocate against police brutality. They would no longer fit the stereotype of the quiet, complacent Asian. A month later in Chinatown, stores closed for the day so shop owners could march in solidarity. They marched down to City Hall to bring attention to Peter Yu's case and the police brutality the Asian American community endured. Among the thousands of protesters, Corky Lee was in the crowd as an inspiring photographer. Lee documented the sea of people linking arms, fighting through their chants at the frontier of racism. Corky captured a protester bloody and weak being dragged by police. Multiple major news outlets soon published his iconic photographs taken at the protests, sparking media attention for Asian narratives against police brutality. Corky Lee's subject was always the Asian community. He photographed AAPI people in all aspects of their lives, not just during challenging times. His photographs showcased the range of his artistic abilities. Through photography, he was able to encapsulate the beauty in the pursuit of the American dream for the AAPI community. The composition of his photography always focused on the people or community as the subject.
So he has many wonderful images of people who were pioneers in our community, but they were just being themselves. And I think that the emotion and the composition and the meaning behind it really sets his collection apart from anyone else's.
Born in the aftermath of the Chinese Exclusion Act, his advocacy allowed the Asian community assimilate into American society. Lee passed away in January 2021 due to the COVID-19 virus, and the origins of the virus created harmful stigmas against the AAPI community. Even until his death, Corky was dedicated to using photojournalism as a sword to capture Asian history in America. Asian Americans continue to face intolerance, despite the efforts of photojournalists like Corky Lee. Yet each one of his photographs continues to push the boundaries of advocating for equality in every aspect of American history. It is because of Corky Lee's contributions that the history of Asians in America has been preserved to be understood and appreciated.